Hello, everybody. That's me. So my name is Tobias, and I'm a PhD student in social artificial intelligence, trained as a psychologist. And today I'm going to talk to you about the science of emotions, facial expressions, and emotion recognition AI. So first, I want to make sure that it's relevant for you all. So if you ever had an emotion, can I just see you lift up your hand? Okay, that's all of us. If you have a face, can you see your hand? Okay, that's most of us. There's a few hands down, a little concerned. Can I see your hand if you've noticed that other people have faces too, and sometimes they move? Can I see your hand? Okay, great. I guarantee this is going to be relevant for you. But I also want to argue that emotion recognition software, or AIs, are also relevant to you. And that's because at this moment, a lot of big corporations out there are spending a lot of time and money developing these sort of technologies, such that, for instance, they can make your computer or a robot interact with you and to change the way it works with you, depending on what it thinks you feel. So I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need your help to help me detect some emotions. So in a moment, there's going to be a big face on the screen, and I just want you all to yell out as it comes up what you think that person is feeling. So let's see here. What is this person feeling? Just shout it out. Happy. I ran some emotion detection software, and it agrees with you. Well done. What about this person? Angry. I hear some excited. Sure, why not? Emotion detection software says angry. Next person. Scared or fear, indeed. And this final one, what about her? Sad. Yeah, well done. We checked that you can detect emotions, but I also want to see whether or not you can actually display emotions. So I'm going to say an emotion word, and I just want you to show me what that looks like. So for instance, if I were to say happy, you might go like, okay, so let's try that. So let me see happy. Let me see angry. Let me see fear. Wonderful, a lot of beautiful faces, a lot of movement going on out there. Thank you so much. So now I want you to think back. Think back to a moment in your life where you were truly angry, or where you're truly feeling afraid. Then show me your hand if the way you felt just before, as you were showing me these emotions, was the same way. Did that feel the same to you? Not for anyone. And that's because sometimes we choose to use our faces and our body to show things that we don't feel. So I want to talk to you now. We just show to ourselves, right? We can look a certain way without feeling it. How can we know that these people are actually feeling the emotions that we so confidently said just before that they're feeling? And today I want to talk you through some challenges we have when we do emotion detection softwares or AI. And the first one is we can post emotional expressions whenever we want to. A second one, and this is when I looked around, I see many different ways of looking angry, is that there's a lot of variations in the way that we do this. And then a third challenge, and as a psychologist, this is the one that's very dear to me. What is an emotion even? A lot of us might say something like, oh, it's something I feel subjectively, but I can't really measure that as a scientist. So we need some very concrete theories about what an emotion is. And one of the most famous theories is called basic emotion theory. Basic emotion theory says an emotion is a biological response that every person shares. So every person around the world feels happy the same way. And more interestingly is that there's these basic emotions. And they're all set to have a distinct facial expression associated with them. So if you smile, you must be happy. And if you're happy, you must smile. But a challenge with this is what we just saw ourselves. You know, sometimes we might look slightly different while having these emotions. So a way of getting around that is potentially thinking about other theories of emotion. So this theory of constructed emotions, also say that emotions and feelings are biological reactions, but it's really saying that it's a combination of the sensation we have of our body and the evaluations we make of situations. So for instance, just before I came on stage, I felt tingling in my stomach. I felt my heart beating a little bit, but I love giving presentations. So I said, oh, I'm excited. Another person might have the very same sensations in their stomach, feeling their heart pounding, but hating presentations, and they would say, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so anxious. And that's really because emotions are meaning creation that we've learned to associate with different sensations on our body. And if you want to think about this a little bit more concretely, theory of constructed emotions see any emotional experience and existing in sort of like a dimensional space between valence, which is sort of how pleasant something feels, or an arousal, which is sort of how energetic something feels. And we can take these emotion words that we're used to and we can plot them in. So for instance, happiness is something that feels quite nice and has some energy. Sad Sad is something that feels very uncomfortable and has low energy. Anger, however, has a lot of energy and feels very uncomfortable. And we can sort of plot all these emotion words in, but key is that these are just words that we have learned to associate with different sensations and experiences we have. And because it's something we learn to associate, we can imagine that another person's experiences and emotions might actually carry something slightly different within them. And if you think of emotions like this, detecting them gets very, very difficult. And specifically, if we look at the predictions around facial expressions, it gets even more challenging. So shout out, what is this lady here feeling? Shout it out. Sad. I agree. And so does most emotion detection software. It says with 99% probability she's sad. But really, I think she's really into this concert she's at. Right? I think she's seeing One Direction, is really digging it. So what about this guy? What is he feeling? Shout it out. Anger, right? Emotion detection says angry. No, he just scored a winning goal, right? He's ecstatic. He just scored a winning goal. And that's exactly what theory of constructed emotion and other series of emotion theories predict. Emotion and facial expressions have some connection with each other, but we can't make this one-to-one mapping as basic emotion theory says. So let's return to our challenges, right? Depending on how we define an emotion, it makes very, very distinct predictions about how our face should be doing. Another one is this many-to-many mapping. As I just saw, you can look happy in many different ways, and you can feel many different things when smiling seems to be a reality. And finally, context matters. So let's look at what most emotion detection algorithms do at this point in time. They use basic emotion theory. Why? Because it's very easy to detect an emotion if all you have to do is to detect a smile. If you say every time someone smiles, they're happy, every time they frown, they're sad, it becomes very, very easy to solve compared to this much more difficult challenge. And most importantly, as we saw just before, it ignores context. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what it do. Here is a representation of a deep neural network. We don't have to go into details what it works, but basically it's a model, statistical model we trained to make predictions. And as you can see, I just wanted to predict these emotions. So what I do is I take a picture, identify the face in the picture, I take the picture, and then into my neural network, which is just a very advanced equation, I plot in all the numbers of the pixels from this picture. And then I do math. You can imagine these arrows represent how strong the associations are, or size of numbers, and then it will predict to me these over here, what emotions, or what the strength of emotion. And we can see here, for instance, this one says, this man is 99% happy. And you might ask, well, how do we get these different weights? And what we do practically is, rather than making it predict these numbers in the end, we just say, here's a picture of someone who's happy. I'll put in all the information about the picture in terms of pixels, and then I fix this number to be 1, and I say, change the weights here. I can do that mathematically, so that it's going to be more likely to say 1 up here, and 0 everywhere else. And then I show it thousands and thousands of pictures of happy people. I show it thousands of pictures of sad people and of angry people, and that will make it automatically update these weights to get to these predictions that we saw. So how do we actually see whether something is a good detection algorithm or what? Well, we show it different pictures that it's never seen before. But I need to know what the answer is. So I show it new pictures of people who I've been told looks happy, I've been told looks sad, and then the better I am at actually getting these labels, the better I deem my emotion detection software to be. But how do we know that the labels that we have are the right ones? Because we see this is very challenging. We can't necessarily just use the face. So that's a challenge we're facing. So what can we do? This is what I'm working on. So we should really start using this context, right? That's what I'm saying. But how do we get it such that emotion detection software actually say that she's looking happy or she's experienced some sort of positive emotion? So what I'm doing, I'm trying to take our preconceived notions of what type of emotions you might feel in a different situation. So for instance, we might think being at a concert, you're likely to feel excited. You're likely to feel ecstatic, make a feeling of awesomeness. And I'm trying to conceptualize that and get quantitative numbers so we can take that and combine it with the information from facial expressions and hopefully get to something that looks at better emotion detection. So I've talked a bit today, but what do I want you to take away? I want you to take away, whenever you hear these big claims from artificial intelligence or emotion AI, these type of things, what does it actually do? Right? Because what current emotion detection software does really, really well is detect facial expressions. But we only say it can detect emotions because we have this underlying assumption that there is a very simple relationship between emotions and facial expressions. The second thing I want you to do is think about emotions, actually, it's really, really hard when you want to be concrete about what they are. And finally, I want to say to you, right, it's not that emotions and facial expression don't have any connection. Of course, most of the time when someone smiles, they're happy. And most of the time when someone is happy, they will smile. But there are also different situations where it's not the case, and often context is key here. And finally, I just want to remind you all that we can post these things. So when I go and ask my friends in a moment, how do you think my presentation went? And they go like, it was great! I just need to ask myself, is that something they truly feel? Or are they just being nice? Thank you so much.